So you're sitting inside the vehicle. You've got an assailant right off the front of your vehicle and they mean to do you harm. They've got a gun in their hand and it looks like they're about to engage you through the vehicle glass or something like that, carjacking type of scenario, and you've made the choice that you want to get your gun out and you want to shoot through your driver's window, your windshield that is, onto the target. There's some things you need to know before you do this. So this glass right here is considered safety glass. All the vehicle glass, the side and the front, is a form of safety glass. In most cases, vehicles have two different types of glass. They have the side windows and the back windows. In these cases, when the safety glass breaks, it basically falls into little pieces and falls down. So if I were to shoot through this, like you'll see later, you're basically going to have a pretty good size hole, and the rest of the windshield or the rest of the window is actually going to be shattered as well. Same thing goes for the back. Now, certain newer vehicles out there, and you're going to see a whole lot more of this to come, these side windows and back window will actually act and be the same substance that you have on the front. It's a different type of safety glass. So with the windshield glass, what you have is basically a layer of glass, a layer of thin plastic. It's mylar, basically a flexible plastic, and then you have another layer of glass. So what you have is a sandwich, a glass plastic type of sandwich. So glass, plastic, flexible plastic, and then another layer of glass. So what happens is it prevents your windshield from just shattering in. And that's the case of you're driving down the highway, a dump truck's in front of you, kicks up a big rock or falls out of the bed of the truck, hits your windshield. That's designed so it doesn't just cave in your windshield and you have little fragments of glass. If you had this type of glass on the front and that happened, you would literally get pelted with a bunch of little pieces of glass. So this actually holds true. It stays in form and it stays intact. So you basically just have a crack, or in the case of a bullet, you'll have a bullet hole going through there, and that's really about it. The rest of the structure maintains that integrity. So some considerations. If we're sitting in the driver's seat and we need to shoot through the windshield, we need to talk about the whys and the what's going to happen. So the why am I doing this? Well, there's an imminent need, there's an active threat, and I don't really have time to get out of the vehicle. I don't have time to open the door, and my car's not immediately in drive and ready to go. If that's the case, I'd be looking at plan B. But if I don't have those options, I could simply get my pistol out and shoot through the windshield. So some things to consider. Now, the windshield has an angle to it. Obviously, it's slanted towards the driver. Now, the sportier, the lower the car, typically the more exaggerated the angle of the windshield is. Like sports cars low to the ground are going to have a pretty aggressive angle, and like boxier vehicles, SUVs, things like that, are going to have a more squared up type of glass or windshield, so it's not going to have that angle. Why am I talking about angles? Because it's all about angles when you're shooting through windshields and side glass for that matter. What's going to happen is when you're in the vehicle and you shoot through the windshield, obviously the bullet is going to make contact with the windshield. So what's going to happen at that point? Well, let's see what happens. All right, so I just shot that full metal jacket round through the vehicle glass, the windshield specifically, onto this target. Now, some things you need to keep in mind here. I was aiming at this black square right here. So I was in the vehicle. I'd say the target is probably about 5 yards away from where the muzzle of my pistol is, maybe 4 yards. I shot through that glass. I was aimed right there, but as you can see, there's actually no shot on the target. If you look at it, there's a little sliver right here, which is probably a piece of the jacket flying off the round, or it could be a sliver of glass as well, secondary fragment, and you can see the bulk of it's right here. So probably the bulk of my round went right here. And chances are, folks, there's something up here as well that you cannot see. Now, I've shot at a lot of targets through glass, probably thousands of times, not probably, definitely thousands of times. And what I have found is the only thing you can guarantee about shooting through glass in a vehicle is you can't guarantee anything. So I hope you understand that. The only thing you can guarantee is nothing, all right? And you don't know what's going to happen. What I'll tell you is this. Typically what I see when shooting through a windshield from the driver's seat or anywhere in the car for that matter, shooting through the front window, the windshield, onto a target, typically we see the round go up. Because what you have is the windshield that's angled like this and the projectile's coming out of your muzzle going like this. What happens is the first part of the projectile that hits the glass is that top corner. So as it hits it, it has a tendency to pull it up, and it goes at an angle upward out of that glass. That's typically what happens. Well, you also have contours in the glass, so it's not just flat across the side, it actually contours to the sides and up a little bit. So as it contours to the sides, that pulls it in different directions as well. So as you can see, I just fired one shot. I was aiming right here, and I'm pretty sure I could hit that spot if I needed to, if there wasn't glass in my way. So I was aiming right there, and as you can see, here's where my bullet hole went. Obviously it's high and it's way off to the right. I have this fragment up here, and who knows what else we have up there. So typically what we see is we see a rise in the bullet come out of the glass, and as it's contoured, we see deflections going to the left and the right as well. So that's fairly common to see. That was a full metal jacket. So let's see what happens with a hollow point. All right, so what I've got right here, I just shot a hollow point through the windshield glass, specifically for your edification. I know you bullet junkies out there want to know that. It was a 124 grain Spear gold dot hollow point. So that's a bonded bullet, and it was a plus P, so it's a definitely a very high quality bonded hollow point ammunition for everyday carry and duty carry. So this is where I shot. I put this up for a side-by-side. So that was the full metal jacket, and this is the hollow point. Again, I was aiming right there. And as you can see, the bullet did go high, and it went way off to the right in this occasion. And again, just goes to show you that the only thing you can guarantee shooting through glass in a vehicle is you can't guarantee anything, because I've done this so many times. And what I typically see is I see the rounds go high as you shoot through vehicle glass, specifically the windshield. In this case, it does go a little bit high, but it goes way off to the right. So that's what we had happen. If I look in the face, there's a small fragment in the face as well, which could be a piece of the jacket or a piece of the lead, another little hole down here. And what else is interesting, we're gonna show you another shot here in a second of the hood of this vehicle covered with glass. And in the dashboard of the vehicle, there are holes because you have jacket core separation, you lose bullet weight, and it just sprawls off and it goes down into the dashboard, which you're going to see here in just a little bit. So again, can't guarantee anything shooting through vehicle glass. All right, I fired yet again one more shot. This one happened to be full metal jacket, but folks, I'll be honest with you, it doesn't really matter. So it was a full metal jacket 9mm. Again, I was aiming right there. There's where my hollow point went earlier, and there's also about on the other target I showed you where the full metal jacket went. But for some odd reason, I don't know if it was the way the stars and the moon were lined up today, but I was aiming here, and I did get what I typically see in that the bullet goes very high. So as you can see up right here, it looks like the bulk of the projectile, the bulk of the bullet went high, and it went really high and way off to the left in this occasion. So what can you guarantee shooting through glass? You can't guarantee anything whatsoever. So here's what we typically have though. So if I were to settle this up, shooting from inside the vehicle through a windshield onto a target, what generally happens is the bullet tends to go high. Not only does it go high, as you can see by the 3 examples I've showed you, it typically goes high and either off to the left or the right, depending on the contour of the windshield and depending on who knows what other variables. So there's a lot that's going on right here. So what do you need to keep in mind? If you decide to take action, you're inside the vehicle and you want to shoot through your windshield to engage a target, and that's really about the only option you have, it is doable, meaning it is a viable option. If you can't get the door open, you can't use the vehicle as a weapon, you could shoot through your windshield. But what you got to keep in mind is what's around this target. If you have innocent bystanders around here, maybe it's not the best course of action because you may be putting their lives in danger because you cannot guarantee what that bullet's going to go. As you can see, the bullet's going to go all over the place, typically goes up and either off to the left and the right. So generally speaking, I guess you could say we could hold a little bit low to get the shots on the body, but that's a difficult thing to stick with because if the target were up here or even another 5 or 6 yards back, we may be missing the target completely and it changes the dynamics. Not to mention, we're talking talking about this Chevrolet Impala we happen to be in right now. If you're in a different type of car or a sedan or a boxy SUV, you're going to get different results. So you can't exactly just go shooting through every windshield you have to see what it's going to do and measure off distances. It'd be pretty difficult to do that and probably cost you a whole lot of money, as you can imagine. So general rule of thumb, it'll probably go up. How high is it going to go up? It's going to depend on how far away the target is to your vehicle and how steep your windshield is. Those are the two big variables. Boxy windshields, you're not going to get that much effect. More sports cars with dramatic slope to windshield, you're going to get more of effect. And then you have the slope from side to side that you have to contend with as well. So there's some things to think about shooting through the glass of the vehicle, specifically the windshield. Now, one other thing on the safety note. Now, I've had people say, well, what, don't you get glass all over yourself? Not really. What you'll see when we show you the dashboard is you're going to see glass debris, glass dust, things like that. It does, you have a little puff of that debris, certainly something you're not going to want to inhale, but it's not like you have glass fragments all over you. So you may get a little bit on you. I guess if you're in a lethal force encounter, that's probably the least of your concerns. And you will notice something on the noise level. Since you're in a vehicle, you almost have a concussion sound. You're boxed in and that noise doesn't really have an easy place to travel out. So you get kind of a, like your head's inside of a drum set, so to speak. So it's amplified slightly. So it's just some things to think about shooting from inside the vehicle and shooting through your windshield. All right, so as you can see, I fired 3 shots through the windshield. First one was full metal jacket, and then I had the bonded hollow point, and then another full metal jacket. These are all 9mm. As you can see, looking at the vehicle glass, this windshield right here, you have 3 distinct holes. Like I talked about earlier, you have a layer of glass, a layer of thin flexible plastic, and another layer of glass. So it's like a flexible glass sandwich basically. So if you feel right in here, I've got kind of, I can feel that rubbery substance right there, and that's what's keeping the window intact. If you look around the hole itself, you do have some spider webbing of where it kind of shattered out, but for the most part you have 3 distinct holes and the window stayed intact. Now, if you look closely, you'll probably see a little bit of glass dust on the window itself, on the windshield. And then throughout the hood, we have a ton of glass debris. Actually, anything from actual chunks of glass to little just particles of glass all over. Now, something I really want to direct your attention to is what I'm seeing down in the dashboard. Right down in the dashboard, I'm seeing 1, 2, 3 large distinct holes and then several cuts, so slices in the dashboard, like somebody jammed a little knife and just kept on, stabbing the dashboard a little bit. So what you have happen is with hollow points, even with full metal jacket, as it hits that window, you have jacket core separation, or you lose bullet weight. In the case of the bonded bullet, you just lose particles, and they jam down in the dashboard. So if they're going down, that means they're probably going up as well. So something to think about there of what's happening to your bullet as it goes through glass. So what's going on? You shot through the glass. As we know, the bullet generally has a tendency to go up and to the left or the right. We can't guarantee anything. You lose velocity though. So obviously we shot through the glass. Let's say the bullet left the muzzle going 1,200 feet per second. Well, I'm not sure what it is, but after it goes through that glass, it's certainly not going 1,200 feet per second anymore. You've lost a lot of speed, and you've lost energy if you've lost the speed, and you've lost trajectory. It's not aiming true as to where you're aimed. It's going to go in a different direction, and on top of that, you lose bullet weight. So if you were shooting a 124 grain projectile and went through the glass, some of it got in the dashboard, some of it went over there, some of it went up here, some of it ended up on the hood. Well, maybe you only have a 80 grain projectile now. Who knows? Like I said, the only thing you can guarantee about shooting through auto glass is you cannot guarantee anything.